Hi, Ted. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jason. I'm excited to answer some questions for you.
Good, good, good. Well, I'd really like to start with how your interest began in both LinkedIn and Twitter. Having written two books on those subjects, it's kind of an interest. I'm sure there's an interesting story leading into that.
Yeah. I got into the computer industry in 1980. If you can believe that, I'm that old. I've always liked to play with new technology, and I've always been just kind of one of those bleeding edge kind of people. So I always get the latest and greatest technology when it comes out, even before it's bug free.
I understand entirely.
So over time, I was in the high tech industry for 20 years, and after the dot-com crash, I was a network manager, and literally 500,000 people lost their jobs in the Bay Area here in San Francisco. So that career literally
Wow.
was gone almost overnight. I couldn't find a job. If there were jobs, the salary was like 35,000 a year, and I was making six figures at the time. So I had to reinvent myself. So I became a certified personal coach because I love mentoring people. But I didn't know how to market and sell, so I got no clients.
Okay.
So then it kind of, when I started going to Dan Kennedy conferences to learn how to market, that led me to Perry Marshall, who taught me Google AdWords. And then I started learning all this different internet marketing and SEO. It's just, again, bleeding edge stuff. And I just love playing with that. And then social media started coming out. And in 2005, I wrote my first social media ebook. And I just read it the other day, and I looked at it, and it's really funny because I focused on MySpace and Friendster were the two big social networks.
Things have changed a little, huh?
A little bit. So what happened is I was playing around with all this, and I went to Perry Marshall's four-man intensive. He has four people come to his house for 2 days, and they worked on the business. And he said, "Ted, you've got to write a book about Twitter." And this is 2007, and Twitter was barely being used by people. It was when people would tweet, "I have a headache. I have a stomach ache. I don't feel good."
You mean you're not supposed to use it for that?
That was the exciting tweets we would see, and the pictures of your food. We all saw millions of those.
Sure.
But I said, "Perry, I can't write 300 pages about Twitter," because that's what his publisher wanted. So I went home and didn't do anything. I wrote a little ebook about it. But then Joel Comm released his book about 6 months later. Went to New York Times bestseller. And it was like 150 pages with lots of big pictures and big print. So there really wasn't that much information in it.
Okay.
But that's how I kind of got it. And Perry said, "You've got to write the book." And originally we were supposed to co-author it, but then he said, "I don't really see any value in Twitter, so you just write the book." And that's how it all came about.
So, dovetailing off of Twitter, that was the book you initially wrote, and
Mhm.
then you moved on to LinkedIn after that?
Correct.
Okay. I guess I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn, and then maybe we can circle back and you can help me understand a little bit of the similarities and some of the advantages that you see
Yeah.
for LinkedIn as a platform. So most of our audience is going to have at least a cursory understanding of LinkedIn, but why don't you tell us what makes LinkedIn unique, what it is, and how it's different from, say, Facebook and Twitter?
Well, I signed up way back when it first started. You get those invitations. I signed up in 2004 or 2005. And back then, you just filled out your profile and nothing ever happened. Maybe a recruiter would find you and hook up some job interviews for you, but it really was just kind of a resume posting site. There was no way to interact with people.
Okay.
So since they've gone public a few years ago, they put a lot of money into redesigning the site and making it, they want you to come back. Like, how many million people come back to Facebook every day? So they made the site more engaging by adding lots of different features. So over time, I admit I didn't really start using LinkedIn that much until I had to research it for the book.
Okay.
And just dug in and I said, wow, they keep adding new great features I didn't know exist. And unfortunately, they're not really good about announcing a lot of the new features. you kind of have to discover them on your own, which is kind of frustrating because they have so many hidden tools that people don't know about. But when I was writing that book, it's like, wow, this is good stuff. You can actually get business using LinkedIn now and interact with people and build relationships.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I was most excited about as I heard you talking about it. Uh, for those in the audience, Ted and I met at a marketing conference, Frank Kern's marketing funnel conference out in uh, San Jose. And that's where initially I had seen your book, was really impressed when I saw it. I mean, it's a pretty decent sized book, and being backed by Entrepreneur Magazine, but I was still not quite understanding the application. I think a lot of times people have this anxiety with regards to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn because we all know to some degree we should be using at least one of them regularly, but it's not always clear what to do. And when you and I have spoken privately, it sounds like you've got sort of a good, better, best scenario, like some of the absolute minimum that you should be doing on LinkedIn, and then if you want to start to see more results, what you could be doing regularly. So maybe we talk a little bit down that path.
Yeah, yeah. I think people are afraid of social media because it can be such a time suck. We've all gone on Facebook, and then 2 hours later, it's like, oh, I got to get back to work.
Sure. Absolutely. And what do you do? How do we address that first of all?
What I do, I teach people to really have a purpose for LinkedIn. Like, what is your objective? And if you have a clear objective, you can actually create a schedule every day and in 15 to 20 minutes get really great results. So like with some people want to build their business network. And some people try to sell on LinkedIn, and that just does not work. It's more of a relationship building tool. So when you take that perspective, it's like, I'm not on this today to make a sale. I'm on to make a relationship with somebody new that once we build that trust, eventually will turn into a long-term client. And then they're going to refer me to their friends too once they have that trust.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. But I think it would be really helpful for our audience too to define that. How do you get on there and not sell, but rather provide? This may sound obvious to you, but maybe you could contrast for me the different types of posts, as I do see a lot of people trying to sell, and it doesn't appear to be working.
Yeah. No, somebody asked me this the other day. I was at a conference in Los Angeles, and somebody said, I don't know how to use LinkedIn. And that's the biggest thing. People don't know. I said, okay, we just met. We didn't know each other 5 minutes ago. We just exchanged business cards. Now, 99 times out of 100, I'm going to take your card home and put it in my desk drawer. And in about a year or two, I'm going to throw away all those business cards. And it's the same thing on LinkedIn. We connect with people every day. And do we ever interact with them again? And most of the time, no. So if you take it literally takes a minute to, once you connect with somebody, just send them a little thank you. Hey, thanks for connecting. I'd really love to learn more about your business. Let me know if you have time to talk sometime.
Okay.
So take the perspective of giving and helping rather than taking and selling.
So that makes a lot of sense. That's a pretty easy formula. When you get business cards and you get back in front of your computer to connect with people via LinkedIn. Now, what's an example of perhaps you've got some connections already, or you've been running your business, but you've largely been ignoring LinkedIn, and you want to start building up your client. You want to start building up your client list, but you don't want to be pushy. You don't want to be, you don't want to come across salesy. But then again, you don't want to just be doing random, nonsensical posts that aren't going to help you out. Is there a way to balance that?
Yeah, what I do is actually I queue up a lot of content in Hootsuite. You can automate a lot of your content that's posted. Like I hired someone to take my book and create blog posts out of content from the book. And then we created social media posts that go out every day to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn automatically. And then what I do is I complement that with me actually posting content that I find, like maybe Wall Street Journal article. I go to LinkedIn Pulse. That's a great resource.
LinkedIn Pulse.
Yeah. So that's a news feed. You can create your own news feeds there, and it pulls in content. And it's
Okay.
so every day you can say, okay, what's the latest business news, and I can share that with my network. Or what's the latest? They don't really have much entertainment news, but you get the idea. You just have content right at your fingertips that you can share with your audience.
Now, one of the things that I think really help people, at least the way that I do business and the way that I've seen actually customers coming to me is we'll meet at an event and we'll start talking about something completely unrelated to my business.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking about cars, or we'll be talking about football, or we'll be talking about something unrelated. And we will connect on a personal level, and then they'll say, well, what do you do? And when they find out, oh, I've got to get your card, and it seems like the relationship was almost built before they knew what I did. My challenge with that, or my question, I should say, is LinkedIn has a little bit of a personality of being all about business. Is it okay to talk about yourself on LinkedIn the way you would on Facebook and share things like that, or is that kind of just not the right venue?
Now, people aren't in that mindset when they're on LinkedIn. They don't want to know what you did over the weekend. They don't want to see your vacation pictures. Those almost never get any interaction from other people.
Oh, you do see some people doing it though, huh?
Yeah, not
Okay.
that often though, because it
I
really
wouldn't feel
does.
comfortable, but it just occurred to me that that type of content seems easy for people to come up with. Um,
But what you can do, there's a section in your profile called interests, and you can put your hobbies in there. And those get picked up by LinkedIn. So if somebody, people are actually starting to do this. I've seen more and more of this. They'll search for people in their geographic area if they have a local type business, and they'll add plus golf. So they're looking for people that play golf. And you know what happens if two golfers get together? They can't stop talking about golf. They're addicted. And like you said, there's an instant relationship there. And then it's, oh, you're also an insurance agent. Now I need a new insurance agent.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I do think people like to work with people that are like them, and so as we try and bridge the gap or the weave personality, I think another way that maybe you've done a good job of that is in your writing works. I haven't noticed any videos that you've been posting, but if you did video, you can educate and weave your content into those pieces. Or, I'm sorry, weave your personality into those pieces, and people can get a little bit of a feel for the type of person you are, too.
Correct. Yeah.
Um, I've got a few customers that I had talked to about this interview, and they gave me some really good questions. So I've got a load of questions for you, but I'm going to kick off with those. So many people in HR remember LinkedIn from the days of hiring, and it's still a great hiring tool and tool for people to find qualified candidates. One of the challenges, I work in business to business. I work a lot with industrial clients. Is it possible to use LinkedIn for finding certain types of skilled tradesmen, like diesel repair technicians, welders, machinists, and things of that nature?
It's, I don't think those people are really on. It's more of a professional network,
Okay.
more of a white collar audience on LinkedIn. The average salary of people on LinkedIn is like $120,000 now. And I think 60% have college degrees and like 30% have MBAs, which is just incredible. But what you can do, think from the referral perspective. If you can connect with someone on LinkedIn that may know somebody has that expertise.
Oh, sure. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you're not going to search compressor technician on LinkedIn and find many compressor technicians with a profile. And if they do, it's probably not a complete profile.
Right.
But think from that perspective of a referral. Who would know those people? Who could connect me with that?
That makes
Maybe
sense.
the distributors of the parts they use or something like that. Forklift, reseller, something like that.
Or maybe some people who run schools or trade schools, things along those lines.
Yeah.
So as a conduit for building your network and getting into those groups of people, it could be effective, but reaching certain segments for hiring may not be the best tool.
Right.
One of the things that I got frequently as I talked to clients or they were asking me about LinkedIn is businesses being afraid to get on there, worrying about their employees, getting hired away from them. Is that a real concern?
A lot of people, I've heard that from some smaller companies. And if you're that paranoid about losing your employees, if they're just on LinkedIn, I've heard of even employees that aren't allowed to put certain things in their profiles, which it's my personal profile. I can't, company can't stop me from doing that. But if you're that paranoid about losing employees because you're on LinkedIn, then you're not treating your employees right. That's my perspective.
Sure. Now that makes sense.
Your company name shows up in Google search results. That's like outside of LinkedIn's private area. So you want to get publicity for your business by being on LinkedIn.
Well, let's say you have a LinkedIn profile for your company. You don't necessarily have to list all of your employees.
It'll associate them if they have it with their company and their experience.
Okay.
So there are connections there. But people are going to leave the company at certain times anyway. So if they want to leave your company, they're not going to be doing a good job for you once you're checked out.
Well, that's a good point too. We're
kind of going through that right now with the San Francisco 49ers. Their whole, the team has checked out mentally. The coach is about ready to be fired. So why would you want to keep these people around if their attitude has changed that much? It's time to just clean house.
Yeah, but also too, I think sometimes people are in very competitive industries, and they'll make the effort to train somebody and get them up and running, and then somebody will come along just offer them. Hopefully, you don't lose employees that way, but I think it is at least a concern. But I think the note to make here is make it good enough to where they don't want to leave.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend of mine. She's a realtor in Beverly Hills. She was just voted one of the top 40 women realtors in the country. And she was saying, I was asking her questions about how she uses LinkedIn. She says, well, I don't want to tell you because you'll tell my competitors and they'll know my secrets. She's obviously been one of the top salespeople. I've known her for over 20 years. I said, I could tell everybody all the answers and 99% of them will not implement it. But one of the tricks is you hide your contacts. So your competitors can't look at your profile and see all your contacts. Usually your contacts are your customers.
Sure.
So that's just one thing you can do. There's ways to safeguard against it in LinkedIn.
When you hear about somebody doing really well on LinkedIn, can you often look at their profile, see what they're doing, and sort of reverse engineer it? Again, understanding that it takes some good work, creating content, going out there and doing the work. That's the hard part. Knowing what to do isn't always it, but can you often tell what people are doing right on LinkedIn just by looking at their profiles?
The profile's just a small part of it. You obviously want to be clear on what you can do for people and how you help them. But the people I see most successful on LinkedIn take the time to send those little messages to people and interact with people. Or just pick up the phone and call people. I even have people call me now after I connect with them. Just say, hey, thanks for connecting. I'd like to learn more about your business. See if I can send you any referrals. So the people that are successful on LinkedIn know how to network. That's the bottom line.
So it becomes a mechanism for leveraging networking. And that's what I hear you saying. It's not necessarily one where you're going to be picking up immediate work from it, but it gets you out there. It's a place to circulate that's 24/7, so to speak.
Yeah. I used to go to BNI, the networking group. We go once a week. There was a group of like 40 people, different professions. We'd all sit down, tell people what we do, and we'd exchange leads. So our job was to, if a chiropractor, you run across somebody looking for a chiropractor or a dentist, you would give that lead to that person at the meeting. Just that's LinkedIn is like that on steroids. So you're not limited to those people that are in the room. And I've actually had people, I've invited them to connect on LinkedIn. They email me back and say, if we ever met in person, I only connect with people I've met in person. I was like, well, that's really going to limit your business.
No kidding. No kidding. I mean, you talk about in your book there being some people you don't want to connect with. And we've all gotten solicitations from people we don't know. Who are some people that are, I mean, is your list of contacts and connections something you want to try really hard to sort of prune and keep clean and only people that you know? Or, how should people be thinking about that?
For the longest time, I kept my network very small because I didn't want a lot of solicitations and noise. But as I've grown it, I've like quadrupled it in the last 2 years. I'm almost up to 4,000 connections now.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I've been really going through it. And in the past, as I was worried about that, I don't want a lot of noise, but 99 times out of 100, you never hear from the person, even if you reach out to them. So I'm being a little more open. I don't connect with everybody. Like if somebody sends me an invitation and they don't have a profile picture or a complete tagline or a professional headline, I usually won't connect with them. So I'll scan their profile quickly before. And if it looks like it could be one of the fake profiles or it's just not right for me, if they can't take the time to fill out a complete LinkedIn profile, they're probably not going to send me much business and they're not going to add much value to my network.
What do you see people often neglecting in their LinkedIn profiles as far as getting a good, solid listing, at least something respectable? I know that you can certainly spend more time on it, adding more content, but is there anything that just drives you nuts when you see people haven't taken the time to do it?
Have you ever seen those eye tracking studies where they look and see where people look on web pages?
Oh, sure. Heat maps.
Yeah. So it's always the top left corner here in North America because we read left to right. So the first thing they see is your profile picture. That's the hot spot. So if you have one where you're like drunk at a party or you've got one cropped, like you can tell the person standing next to somebody and they're hugging them, then they cut out the other person. LinkedIn's a professional network of very high-level people. Go spend $100 and get a professional portrait done. Have a professional picture. And don't have one with a background like you at the beach. You may be in a nice suit or something, but just go get a professional photo done. It adds so much value to your profile.
Picture makes a big difference.
And then the name field is the next thing they see. And a lot of times people stuff in a lot of keywords as their last name because it actually does help you rank for those keywords, but it cuts off most of your professional headline. And your professional headline is right below your name. It's 180 characters. And most people put their job title. So if you search for a financial advisor on LinkedIn, you'll come up with probably about 20,000 at least in the U.S., actually probably over 100,000. And there's 99% of them say they're a financial advisor. How do you stand out from the crowd if all of you use the same tagline?
Well, that's a good question.
So what I teach people is use your USP or unique selling proposition or a catchy phrase that's going to make people treat it like a Google ad. You want people to click on that ad, so treat it like a headline. Pique their interest so they want to click on your profile.
Do you see people using LinkedIn more and more to find specific consultants and financial advisors or different types of roles like that versus going to Google and doing a search?
I just saw an article last week. 77% of business professionals will look you up on LinkedIn before they do a call with you. So,
77%.
yeah. So, if you're in business and you don't think LinkedIn is valuable, people are looking at your profile. So, it's kind of like having a half-finished website if you don't finish your profile. Are people going to do business with you if your website is half built and it says under construction?
Well, probably not. It definitely could do a better job. I think what I'd be interested in knowing is you've hit some key points here as far as the image, the headline, using it as a marketing piece. It in effect is marketing you. You don't want it to be overly hyped, certainly, but you do want to recognize its impact as a marketing tool. What are some other things that you see people adding into, or maybe that people aren't aware they can add into their LinkedIn profiles to make them stand out even better?
What I teach my students is in the summary section. A lot of people don't even put the summary section in there, but that's right below your name. You can change the position of it now too, but a lot of people just repeat their job history, or they write it in the third person. They have somebody else write like, Ted went to school at blah blah blah, and he's worked at these companies, and he just goes on, reads it, repeats what's in your experience section. It's not compelling. So I teach people to write a compelling story about why you do what you do, especially if you're a consultant or an independent business owner. Why are you passionate about what you're doing? What led you down this path that you're now doing this in a career? And if you catch their attention in the first paragraph, they're going to keep reading and learn more about you and get to know you. So they'll know maybe you like golf, or you're a family man, or what your priorities in life are, and what experiences you had that led you to do what you're doing now.
That's great advice. That's great advice.
It helps you stand out from the crowd because 99% are just, they don't care. They just fill it out.
Now, what about video or things like linking to your SoundCloud account, maybe where you do interviews, or any other facets like that to kind of enrich the profile? Does it allow for that?
Oh, yeah. In the summary section and the experience section, you can add YouTube videos, SlideShare, PowerPoint presentations, or multimedia content from SlideShare now. Recordings. You can have a downloadable brochure. So right in your profile, they can click and download things.
Can you monitor any of that?
No, they don't give you any stats.
Okay.
But if you actually do put it on SlideShare, slideshare.net, which was purchased by LinkedIn a couple of years ago, they'll tell you how many people have viewed your content. So if you put it on SlideShare first, that's a whole nother business audience. You can attract people.
So then you can, is definitely gaining traction. I think that's a great tool. What have you found to be most helpful with your profile?
What I do, I have people at the beginning of my summary, I ask a question like, are you not getting, or would you like these kind of results? Would you like to increase your profile views on LinkedIn by 50%? Or would you like 40% more leads per week? I put very specific things that I've accomplished for my clients. So if you're interested, schedule a call with me. I have a link to Time Trade account so they can schedule a 30-minute consultation. Or just call me. Put your phone number right there in the first paragraph. And you wouldn't believe how many people call you when you do that.
No kidding.
I was shocked.
That sounds so simple, but yeah, inviting people to call you or offering some kind of a free consultation. Your Time Trade account, I'm familiar with Time Trade as well. For those of you who don't know, it integrates with your calendar, so it shows kind of a whitewashed calendar to the internet audience. They can just only see that you're busy. They can't see what's on your calendar, and then you can make available slots that people can actually book for themselves. And it's a great way to organize that rather than having an email volley back and forth. So you
Yeah,
found that to be very helpful?
yeah, let people schedule time on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for a couple hours. And I get 3 to 4 appointments a week doing absolutely no marketing, just from LinkedIn.
And so how are they finding you? They're using LinkedIn as a search tool, looking for somebody to help them improve their LinkedIn exposure and leads?
Yeah, what I do is I like to follow popular people. And when they post content, a lot of times you can see how many people are liking and sharing and commenting on people's content. If you jump into those conversations and you like it and share it and comment, people come to your profile. I focus most of my efforts on getting more profile views on LinkedIn, and I can see that in my account. So it's kind of like driving people to your website. You can look at Google Analytics and say, I've got 10,000 visitors last month. And LinkedIn shows you the trends, and now they even show you exactly what content you're posting that's getting traction and what activities you're doing. So it says your profiles increased 10% last week, and here's what you did. So you know exactly what activities you have to focus on to get more profile views.
Is that part of an increased service level, or is that what you get in your basic account?
They give you limited data in the free account.
Okay.
And if you sign up for I think it's a $20 a month account, you get incredible analytic data. They even show you what keywords people search to find you or how they found you. So it's unbelievable data. And if
That
you
is
pay for the
cool.
whole year, it's 25% off. So like about $200 a year. You're getting incredible data about your LinkedIn profile.
And you can then use that into doing more of the same or more of the things that are effective towards driving them inbound.
And then you don't waste time doing the things that aren't driving people to your profile and generating business.
Can you offer an ebook? Not a. I think you can offer an ebook, but can you offer an opt-in email opt-in of your LinkedIn page?
Nothing hyperlinks in your summary,
Okay.
but you can put a link and say, I put like download a free chapter of my book, and I have like images of my books. So if they click on those, it opens up like an image. But yeah, they don't like linked things yet.
Okay.
I think they want to keep you on the LinkedIn site. That's their goal. But you can cut and paste the links, and I get a lot of opt-ins from LinkedIn too.
Well, probably if they're watching Facebook and that trajectory, maybe they'll add that functionality in, and it will be something that you can integrate. But you're right. Perhaps they just want to control it more.
In my status updates, I do that where I have like compelling tweets I put out. They're kind of tweets or social media posts, and then I link it to a lead pages page where they can download a free chapter of a book. And I get most of my opt-ins that way.
Good advice. Let me ask you this. I've got another client that works for a large software company that provides software to the engineering space. And she works in the marketing department and is often, well, she actually gave me a question. I'll read it to you. I'd actually be really interested in knowing how other marketers are using LinkedIn to generate leads and visits to their company websites. For example, what types of posts they've seen good results with. She goes on to say that they've worked with Facebook and Twitter, but always curious about how well LinkedIn is working for others. So maybe we can dissect that a little bit. There's a couple of different questions in there. Starting with what types of posts, if you're a marketing manager for a company, maybe it's a software company or a large services company, you have thousands of customers, what types of things would be good versus, if you're a consultant, maybe going out much more on a one-to-one basis?
One thing you can do is definitely follow companies, follow your competitors too, and other software companies, and see what kind of activities they're posting on LinkedIn. And then you can see when they start posting certain status updates, you see how much traction they're getting. So if they get 10,000 people share it and comment it, definitely do that same approach, whatever kind of a compelling statement they're using to grab people's attention. So look what's working from other people and just duplicate it. Just like everything else. Look at other ads that are working in Google. You don't copy them exactly, obviously, but you look at the approach they're taking.
Probably if you spent, a month watching a feed and kind of, like you had said, observing what posts are getting the most traction, maybe take a little screenshot. After a month's time, you could probably start to see similarities among common posts, just like you can with common popular blog posts that tend to
I create a swipe file in Evernote. I've used Evernote, and you can literally cut and paste or do screen captures right from there.
I love Evernote.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do a screen grab within there. I usually do a screen grab and drop it in, but that's a good piece of advice.
You can do the whole page, or you can just do sections now in the newest version. It just came out. Or you snag it. I can do like a scrap, just the ad, and then I throw it into my Evernote. So I have this whole swipe file in there of thousands of ads that are performing.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and try that because I upgraded my Evernote recently. I guess what might be good to highlight here too is we had talked about personal personal LinkedIn pages, but when you're operating a LinkedIn page for a company, can you give a couple of tips, do's and don'ts for that?
Yeah, one way I was kind of reverse engineering it for one of my clients, and they're in the app building business. So they build mobile apps. So we're searching for companies using mobile apps, just the keyword mobile app development, I think it was. And there was one company that came up, and they literally had no information on their company page, except in their title, they said mobile app development by, and their company name. And then they had about 600 people following them. And they ranked number 1. So putting your keywords in your company name, if you have a very specific niche like that.
Sure.
And then get some followers.
Does that factor in? Are the followers sort of like votes in the world of LinkedIn? Do you think that's part of their ranking criteria?
Yeah, because we looked at other ones that had lots of content on their company page, and they only had like 20 followers, and they didn't rank as well. So we kind of played around with it, and we don't know if this company went out and bought these followers, like a Fiverr deal.
Sure.
I'm not sure how they did it, but they had zero. They didn't have a company description on the page. It was
that's
really
incredible.
Yeah.
So it truly highlighted maybe a weakness of their algorithm. But as we know from Google, weaknesses, exploitable weaknesses, are usually only temporary.
Exactly.
Exactly. What I think would be interesting, well, you brought up something, going out and buying, like on Fiverr, going out and buying a bunch of likes and follows. How do you feel about that?
Oh, you're going to get caught eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can get ahead. It'll get you ahead for a little bit, but they'll crack down on the algorithm eventually and realize they're all fake profiles.
But if you're gonna go about this the right way, and you're gonna go out and get some real followers, then part of LinkedIn is building that follower base. And if you're a company that has thousands of clients, actively pursuing them or giving them a reason to want to connect with you via LinkedIn, not only does it build your audience, but it also elevates the visibility of the content that you do publish for other people.
Yeah. Yep. Like Adobe, you can do showcase pages now, so one for each product. So they have, a thing for Photoshop or whatever the Adobe Digital Marketing Suite is. Then they have thousands of followers because those are all huge popular products.
These showcase pages you can use for separate products or divisions of your business?
Exactly. You can do up to 10 showcase pages.
Okay.
The trick there is you have to get followers for every showcase page. So if you're a small company, it's really hard to get a lot of followers for every little thing you do.
Yeah, you could go nuts, and it would take a lot of time. But I think if you focus on the basic or your real core offering, then you can always bring that core into the fold, or an occasional post about a different business line isn't going to scare them off. But to try
Right.
and have too many showcases going, I guess at that point you're really diffusing your efforts.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
All right, I've got another question here. This is an individual. He's a consultant. He's been a client of mine for a while, and he works in the area of. He's a metallurgist, okay, and basically he's working to help engineers, material engineers, make better products. His question is a bit blunt. Is it worth it or just another waste of my time? And I think he knows that when used correctly, it probably is worth it. But what you can hear from the question is frustration in that, gosh, we started and it was Yahoo, and then it was Yahoo and Google, and then Microsoft and Bing, and then that proliferated to MySpace and Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and I think a lot of people, because LinkedIn is a little late in the game, saying, okay, enough already. And I don't want to say late in the game. They're first in their space, and
Right.
they're the only one occupying that space, which clearly has a need, but it did emerge a little bit later than maybe some of the others. And I think he's saying another thing that I've got to do is this: how can I make this work for me in the least amount of time?
See, that's what LinkedIn is different. Where all those other sites have come and gone over the years, because they didn't have a real focus. Like MySpace, it was there, it was a network. Then it turned into like a musician's network, and it got a focus. And then it's still around, but it didn't have the focus. LinkedIn is a business professional network. So these business professionals are going to be around even if LinkedIn goes away. When I had my 20-year career in Silicon Valley from 1980 to 2000, I built a huge network, and I was one of the top network managers because I worked for Cellular One, and we grew like crazy. So I had all these great contacts in Silicon Valley. But back then, we didn't have cell phones. Literally, very few people had cell phones. We barely had email at the time. So I had a business card of a person that I used to know. And like, wow, how do I find these people? And a lot of them moved out of the area, so I couldn't find them in the phone book and call them at home, literally.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you noticed this, but we disconnected and then reconnected. I missed about 15, 20 seconds. You were talking, pick up where you said you had
Oh.
his business card and you were trying to reach him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for 20 years, I had all these connections, and what else we had was a business card. And the business card had their company phone number on it. Didn't have their personal information. We didn't have any personal email addresses back then. So I lost touch with thousands of connections. So once LinkedIn came into play, I was able to find a lot of these people again and reconnect with them after like a 10-year absence. So now, if LinkedIn goes away, I've got all these people in my personal address book now, so that I have a way to get in touch with them later if LinkedIn ever goes away.
Well,
So
you
think
just
about,
brought up a really key point. LinkedIn is not specific to the company that you work at. It's not specific to the email that you have or the current phone number. It's a profile that changes and evolves as you move through your career. And I think there's huge value in that because people do change jobs. And for example, if you've got a giant email list
yeah,
and a lot of them are corporate emails, well, you're going to experience a decent chunk of turnover in that list because people are just going to leave the company and their emails are going to get deactivated.
right.
But having something that follows them that is not specifically related to any one company is hugely powerful. So Our advice to my metallurgist client, your advice is probably number one, build your connection. Those connections that you do have, if you take them through LinkedIn, connect with them there. It's not going to be so specific to that single company that they're working at, which they may leave at
Don't
some
treat him
point.
as a LinkedIn connection. Treat him as a person you're building a business relationship with. So no matter where you work or where they work, you're going to have a business bond relationship that's going to go on forever.
So what would be some things, let's say he wants to get up to 100. He may already have 100. I'm picking an arbitrary number. He wants to get up to 200 LinkedIn connections.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have people come to you all the time with few LinkedIn connections. They want more. What are some of the things you recommend people do?
So he can do advanced searches on LinkedIn for the job titles of the people he wants to connect with, and just start reaching out to people as he finds them and build that relationship. It can even set in the advanced search, once you come up with a search that's bringing good results, in the upper right hand corner you can click save and save that. So LinkedIn automatically repeats that search continuously and then sends you these leads.
So people that emerge that have the title and some of the background that it is you're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So once you find a great search criteria that's bringing you the right people for your network, save it, and automatically once a week, LinkedIn sends you an email that says, here's 42 more leads, or here's 100 more leads that match your search.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's free.
So you create a profile, or you look at the people who have written you checks over the past years. You look for that common element, people who you're able to serve the best. You set that up as a LinkedIn profile, as a LinkedIn search, and LinkedIn goes out there and finds other people very much like the past people you've helped.
And I think you can save 3 different searches for free. And if you get more advanced accounts, you can up to 5 or 10 different searches for different kind of people.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
I really like
those are those hidden little tricks of LinkedIn that they don't tell you about.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this with us. I don't think it's something that most people would be able to discover themselves. And that right there is huge from a lead's perspective. And another question that I have, again, for my metallurgist client, he's got a thriving website. It's got a lot of content. He does a lot of writing in the metallurgy segment. What's a good way to leverage your website into LinkedIn connections? Do you just put the connect with me on LinkedIn icon in your blog and on your articles, or is there something a little bit more effective than that?
You could do that. And what you can do now, what I do is I do the status updates that go out to your whole audience with links back to your blog or your website. So that drives people from LinkedIn to your website where they can opt in and join your email list.
Okay.
And now they have the LinkedIn Publisher, which has been rolling out this year. I think it's rolled out to everybody now, where instead of just that short status update, there's a pencil icon within that status update box. And you can put full blog posts right on LinkedIn that go into the LinkedIn Pulse database.
Okay. Well, this sounds like something that helps people get from LinkedIn to the post.
Right.
How is there any magic to getting them from your website? Because he's got an audience as well. We all know that people visit web pages all the time and leave never to connect again, and they don't want to give up their email address. Which becoming a LinkedIn connection would probably be really effective. So is there a way you recommend people to leverage their blog traffic into LinkedIn follows?
Yeah, make sure you have the icons where you can definitely connect on LinkedIn. But at the end of each post, you can say, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn, and put your LinkedIn URL at the bottom of each post. And when I send out like newsletters to my email list, I always put a PS at the bottom that says, hey, don't forget to connect with me on Twitter. Or in the next one, I'll say, don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn. And every time I do that, I get a flurry of new connections.
Now, do you build it right into your signature line?
Yeah, right after, say, whatever my closing is, then I have Ted Prodromou, my contact information. And then right after I do P.S., don't forget to connect with me. The P.S. works really well with newsletters.
Right.
But if you do just an article on your website, just at the bottom say, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn.
And that's huge. I don't think a lot of people with email lists often consider hedging their bets by getting that audience to connect with them in a couple of different ways.
Yeah. Now, some people respond to Twitter. Some people would rather interact with you on LinkedIn, others on Facebook. So people have their preferred methods of social media. It's clear.
Let me ask you another. This question may be more specific again to industrials. You and I have the luxury of writing books and creating articles and content and things like that. Let's say that you're in the industrials side and you sell heavy equipment.
Mm-hmm.
What are some types of content that you can share to do that? To relationship build, not to do the hard sell, not to annoy people, but also to keep yourself out there and relevant. I think that's where sometimes people struggle. They'll have a list of contacts maybe, and they'll try and grow it, but they struggle a little bit because they feel all of a sudden now a microphone's put in their face and they don't know what exactly to say.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
do you have any suggestions for those types of users?
Yeah, the groups are very effective if you get into the right groups. A lot of the groups, it's just people post endless content and nobody ever responds to it. And I was like, I didn't do that. I stopped doing that because, like, nobody's reading this. Nobody's responding to it. So I'd look for things people are posting in groups that are getting interaction and change my headline to something similar to that. Use that approach. It's the same content, but you just want people to interact with it. And then jump into those conversations of the popular topics. Another thing I do, I look on that LinkedIn Pulse. This one woman, she's just a personal coach. She posted one article, and it has over 2 million views on it now in 6 months.
Are you kidding me? From one article?
One article, her first article she ever posted on LinkedIn Publisher. And it's
What
like,
is LinkedIn Publisher?
that's the pencil icon where you can post a full blog post instead of just a status update. And that gets put into the LinkedIn Pulse, which is their news feed.
Okay. And you can.
So
It doesn't have to be original. It has to be yours, probably,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be the only place you post it. So if you're going to post something on your blog, go in and post it in LinkedIn Pulse as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then it gets in front of 330 million people potentially.
Does it also get some wings within the search engines?
Oh yeah, because you can search for specific posts on certain topics.
And if it's in LinkedIn's domain, then maybe it elevates it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
the more
you're-
interaction you get on it, the more they'll bump it up and make it a preferred post. Then it just goes viral.
So corporations can start publishing content in LinkedIn Publisher where they
Right.
may currently only be posting it in their blog and give their articles a whole new additional audience, more exposure.
Yep.
You talked about the groups. How do people find groups that they can actively participate in?
Just go to that search bar at the top and you can actually select groups and search for keywords. And then join groups that have interaction. You can actually look, there's a little italic I when you're looking at viewing a group. If you click on that, it gives you information about the group and you can show trends. Is it growing? Is there a lot of conversations going on? So I like to join groups that have a lot of conversations going on. And a lot of conversations are people just blasting their own content out there.
Yeah.
But I was talking to somebody last week, and they said, yeah, do it. Blast content, because what happens is you get those emails once a day or once a week from the group with a summary of what's going on. And they keep seeing your name in there. And just this little subconscious trigger goes off as, oh, Ted Prodromou. I got to read his content. I keep seeing his name. And one guy I know, he's number one in profile views in his arena and his niche every week because he just blasts articles over and over to groups.
No kidding. Okay.
And nobody's reading them. Nobody actually goes in and comments on them. But his name keeps coming up. He's figured it out where it comes up in that summary email.
So it's sort of like nurturing. You're actually it's just exposure. Your name is being flashed
everywhere.
Again and again, even though they don't really, they're not looking at the content that you're producing.
So subconsciously, they consider you're an expert in that area because you're generating a lot of content. You have never read any one of your articles.
Now, let me ask you, I'm going to jump around.
You want to have quality content because if they do read it, you don't want to put garbage out there.
Oh, of course. Of course. But it is interesting because it underscores a good point. People do see your name. That does start to build some recognition. And you do want to do it legitimately and put out good content. But just by virtue of being active, it can help people start to feel more comfortable with contacting you or with answering your emails or friend requests. I could say friend requests. Connection requests, is that more appropriate on LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's what they call it, yep.
Okay. I'm going to jump around on a couple of questions because I know we're getting a little long on time, and then we'll leave with what some of the things that you're offering today for people who want to learn a little bit more about it. But let me ask you some questions I didn't get to. Do you use the Who's Viewed My Profile feature, and how do you use that?
The Who's Viewed My Profile I look at all the time.
Okay.
Every day I look at that.
Does it surprise you?
No, because with my premium account, it tells me exactly who is looking at my profile and how they found me. And a lot of times, if they viewed my profile, I'll just reach out and connect with them. Say, hey, I see you viewed my profile. Let's connect, see if we can work together.
Does that freak people out?
No, not at all.
Okay.
People are used to it now. I think a year ago it did freak people out. But if for some reason they are interested in your profile, I don't always connect with them, but I've connected with a lot of really good people because they found me in certain ways. And I'll ask them, hey, how did you come across my profile? So just the more I can learn about how people are finding me on LinkedIn, the more I can focus my efforts on LinkedIn and really accomplish a lot in a few minutes a day.
I think the how is the big piece. It's the same thing when we're looking at search engine results, right? And you see all of this traffic coming from a certain keyword, and then you see all this traffic blowing up a certain page. It gives you clues. It gives you evidence that you can then say, well, what's good about this that I can do more of?
Right. And not have to worry about the other stuff.
Absolutely. The old 80-20 rule.
Exactly.
Always trying to find that 20% that's producing 80% of the results.
Yep.
Should I import all of my Gmail contacts when I set up on LinkedIn?
If they're business contacts, don't import personal contacts. But what you can do, once you import those, you can tag them under different categories. So I have mine like attorneys, accountants, different industries. So I can send an email through LinkedIn once I connect with them. And it tells you if you're connected with them on LinkedIn or not. It has a blue icon if you're connected on LinkedIn. And then there'll be a gray icon if you're not connected with them. So you can right there click connect and it'll invite them to connect with you.
Okay.
And then when you tag them, you can send an email to all your attorneys and say, I'm doing a attorneys only webinar about using LinkedIn to get more business. So it creates distribution lists.
Do you do that type of granular, those type of granular workshops?
Yeah, well, yeah. I have LinkedIn for financial advisors. I'm creating a course for realtors right now.
Excellent.
And it's essentially the same information. It's about using LinkedIn to build relationships, but with financial advisors, compliance issues. So I say, here's things you can't do, and they're aware of that. But It's like 90% it's the same course over and over.
Yes, I'm learning about I'm learning about advisors and some of
Yeah,
the issues that are there as far as what they can and can't do. All in all, it's a good thing because we want people and their money to be protected. But it's
right.
amazing the regulations.
It
Uh,
is.
and I probably have a customer or a client or two for that course. Now, how do you offer up? Let's say somebody wants to learn more about you, connect more with you. Obviously, this would be kind of funny. Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am.
Good. So it's Ted Prodromou and they can just do a search for you and connect with you that way. You have
Yep.
an email list where you give a lot of great content. And what are you working on currently? Do you have an online workshop or a course?
Yeah, my course is at linkedaccelerator.com. So you can't use the word LinkedIn anymore. So it's linked accelerator.
Oh, I was going to ask that. Okay. So Linked Accelerator, and how does that course work? Is it online, you log in and you go through the lessons yourself, or tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, I do it live about 3 times a year. So I record 5 webinars. It takes you through the process of creating your strategy, building your foundation, optimizing your profile, building your network, and then advanced strategies like kind of what we've been talking about, these little tricks. So those are updated 3 times a year. And then I do little videos. So if you want to just learn how to do a saved search, you can watch 2-minute video instead of watching a 60-minute webinar.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
A lot of value there. And people really, everybody's got their modality for learning, but I think when you can watch video, and these I'm imagining are screencasts mostly, so you're narrating while you're showing them exactly what to do on the interface.
exactly. Yep.
Great, great, very handy. 24/7 online, and that is at linkedaccelerator.com.
Yep.
Good, good. Well, Ted, this has been fantastic. I know it's an area that's always changing. It's an area that's often misunderstood, but you really helped us to narrow down some good key ways that we can use LinkedIn better, help boost up our profiles, and make more connections to generate more leads. So I appreciate your help today.
Thank you. Just focus on building those relationships and you'll do just fine.
Fantastic.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me. This has been
Oh,
great.
my pleasure. We'll have you on again soon. Take care, Ted.
Thank you.
Bye bye.